President, please be seated. The court is now in session. And the chamber gives the floor to the defense team for Mr. Nguyen Jie to resume its questioning. You may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good afternoon, Your Honours, Counsel. Mr. Witness, before the lunch break, I was referring you to testimony of another S-21 cadre, indeed not Prakan, but someone called Lak Min. And during the hearing of the 26th of April 2016, at about 14:29, I asked him a question about Son Sen and when he saw Son Sen. And I said, witness, but that it was in 1978 that you saw Son Sen 3, maybe 4 times. And then Lak Min answers, yes, that is correct. I saw him 3 or 4 times during the period that I worked as an interrogator. Now my question to you is, you spoke earlier about Son Sen and him being present at a study session. Do you recall seeing him in 1978, like Lak Min said?
While the witness is thinking, what was the reference?
The transcript of 26 April 2016 at around 14:29.
Son Sen came to address the crowd at a study session, and I cannot recall the exact date when he was there, but usually he would come on the national ceremony held annually. And as I said, I was busy with my tasks, and I rarely attended the meeting or meetings. I did not recall exactly when he was there addressing the crowd.
That's no problem. Let me finish the subject of Office 21 or Regiment 21 being part of the military by showing to you a document which is not in your binder but which has been put on the interface before. Mr. President, it is E3/2028. If with your leave, I would like to put that document on the screen. The English ERN is 00185219, and Khmer is 00021084.
President, yes, you may proceed. And in general, the chamber grants the request to have all the documents projected or shown on the screen unless those documents are objected by the party.
It is indeed in the binder. I apologize. So you can also have a look at the binder, but at the screen it's the same. Mr. Witness, this document says list of prisoners from the General Staff Office. And then if you have a look at, for instance, prisoner number 3, prisoner number 4, prisoner number 8, prisoner number 9. They are members of S21 and at the same time are considered prisoners from the General Staff Office. Is my understanding correct?
That is correct. They were from General Staff.
And to be sure, there's another document which is also in your binder, which will be put on the screen. That is E3/2100 2100, Khmer ERN 000192233, and English 008555374. French I will provide a bit later. Mr. Witness, if I have that document on the screen. There it is. It says on top, Military Staff Office. I believe in French it says Bureau de l'État-Major. If you look at prisoners 19, 20, 21, 25, basically from 19 till 32, you see that there are members belonging to Regiment 21 or Office 21, and that they are registered under the category Military Staff Office. Correct?
This office was under the command of General Staff, so it was. These offices were put in the column as they were from General Staff, President. Duty Counsel, please be careful when the witness is directed to examine the documents. Sometimes the documents on the screen are not really clear enough for the witness to examine, and I direct and advise you to assist the witness in reviewing the documents, and during the break time, the duty counsel should review the documents and also assist the witness in finding all the detail from the documents. And please also assist the witness to review and read the documents before he responds to the questions.
Thank you, Mr. President. The French ERN is 008-48707. I owe you another French ERN, by the way. That was a French ERN for document D288/6.52/4.40. There was a military court statement of Duik. The French ERN for that excerpt was 003-29405. Mr. Witness, we have discussed the military nature and character of Office 21. We have discussed the person who was in charge all the way in the top. Now I would like to discuss the person to whom you were directly responsible to in hierarchy. And I believe that was Hor. Now you said on many occasions that you were a member of the guard unit. You also said that Hoare was the chairman of the guard unit, and that you shared also an office with Hoare. That's all correct, isn't it?
Let me clarify the question once again. What are you asking me? And please ask clearly.
Perhaps one question at a time.
Well, I was summarizing what he has said many times already, but if it's still not clear, I'm happy to ask it again. Just a yes or no, if that's possible, Mr. Witness. You were a member of the guard unit, correct?
Correct.
Hoare was the chairman of the guard unit, correct? I heard you say yes, but the microphone wasn't on.
Correct.
And you shared an office with Hoare, correct?
Yes.
Now let me get to a few more specifics in regards your working relation with Hoare, or what you had to do following Hoare's orders. Let me take you to your interview to the prosecution, E3/9140. The first ERN is same English as in Khmer, 00181096. This is what you said, and the only thing that I will be asking if that is indeed a correct statement. When there was an order to retype this list, I have to retype and forward it to Hoare, end of quote. So this is about retyping a certain document. When you retype the document, you forward it to Hoare, correct?
Correct.
The next excerpt is 2 pages down, same ERN for Khmer and English, 00181098. Usually, Hoare examined papers that I prepared for him, and then he would sign in to approve, end of quote. Correct statement?
Correct.
The next one is on the next page, English and Khmer ERN 00181099. And I quote, "So my task is first of all to handwrite all the names of the prisoners who came in, and then I reported it to Hoare, and Hoare will forward it to Duke's office," end of quote.
President, please hold on, Mr. Witness. You may proceed now for prosecutor.
Merci.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm a bit concerned by the way this examination is taking place, because first it's becoming a reading of excerpts at each time, statements of the witness, asking the witness to confirm these statements. So maybe the defense could, from time to time, put an open question. That would also be possible. And if the answer does not correspond to what he said before, then you could confront the witness with what he said before. But here, things are becoming are you sure, is it true that you said this or that? So I don't think that this is the method that was used before this chamber up until now. I understand that the defense is trying to gain time, but open questions can be asked with regard to these excerpts. So you do not need to read out the previous statements because no question had been put to the witness in that regard before.
Well, these questions were open questions by the prosecution. So I'm just reading the answers. It goes much quicker. Many open questions were already asked, so I think, Mr. President, this line of question is permissible.
I think it's not only an issue of line, but these are statements made before an official of this court, so this is not something from any other court where we don't know the circumstances. So I'm inclined to believe that's a possible way. But again, to be clear, because these are statements of this witness before an authority of this court. So we have a certain control over the circumstances.
Yes, and indeed it was the prosecution itself that asked those questions. So let me read that last paragraph or excerpt again. You said, so my task is first of all to handwrite all the names of the prisoners who came in, and then I reported it to Hoare, and Hoare will forward it to Duke's office. Correct?
Correct.
The next one is on English and Khmer ERN 001811106. This is a question about formats, certain way that documents are made or are produced. And then you say the following. The idea of making this format is not mine. Actually, it was the order of Hoare. But both the format and the organization of this list was told by Hoare. Hoare himself received the order from his upper authority as well. My question, was Hoare indeed involved in both the format and organization of lists?
Hoare was the one who organized the format and also the list for me to list down the names.
Is it fair to say that Hoare was the person for whom you worked the most, or that he was the closest to you in relation to your work?
The tasks that I did was ordered by Hoare in relation to listing all the names.
Before I will revisit Hoare and what you what you said about Hoare, let me now turn to what Duik said about the tasks or functions of Hoare. I will read to you what he said, and then I will ask whether that is correct or not from your recollection. First excerpt, Mr. President, from Duik's testimony about Hoare. Document E3/5748, English ERN 001-53568, French 001-53445, Khmer 00153459. Duik says that it was Hoare who took charge of the non-important prisoners. Is that correct or is that incorrect?
That is correct. Non-important prisoners were dealt by Hoare.
Duik said also the following about Hoare, that is document E3 1570, Khmer ERN 00154223, English 00154193, French 00154208. Hoare took care of the Phnom Penh sector in every field, interrogation as well as document reading. Anything that happened in the Phnom Penh sector would go through Hoare's office before it would reach me. End of quote. Correct or incorrect?
I do not know about tasks performed by Hoare.
As you understand, there's a difference whether you confront the witness with his own previous statements or with the statements of another witness. Because if you haven't asked open questions before you confront him with the statements of another witness, it might be considered, or there might be a tendency to lead. Just as a general warning, that it is seen as leading.
Let me go to his next quote. It's also difficult to ask open first. Judge Vance, it's E3/1576, Khmer ERN 00159563, English 00160722, French 00159584-85. Duik says that Hoare was relatively autonomous in his work. My question, is that something that you were able to observe? Was Hoare relatively autonomous in his work?
I do not really understand the word autonomous. Could you please simplify it?
Of course, that's no problem at all. Was Hoare relatively independent when he made his decisions? Whenever Hoare ordered something to be done, could he order that by himself, or did he need to get authorization of anyone else?
To my knowledge, whatever Hoare did required the permission from the upper echelon, otherwise he could not do the task.
I understand. And who was the upper echelon?
I am referring to Duik.
Let me now confront you with what Duik himself said in his earlier statements. And I'm now focusing specifically on the matter of execution of prisoners. You said many times, and that's why I don't need to ask you an open question, that it was Duik who decided whether a prisoner should be executed, yes or no. However, Duik said the following in E3/65, Khmer ERN 00146488, English 00147526, French 00147900. He said, and I quote, "At S21, the person who planned and gave the order on this matter, the killing, was Kim Wat, alias Hor, and the implementer was chairman of my special unit, Him Hui." End of quote. So Duik is saying here that the decision to execute was first of all Hor's decision. Correct or not correct?
To my knowledge, President interrupts. Please hold on, Mr. Winner. You have the floor first, co-prosecutor.
First of all, I'd like to insist again that things are going very fast. We have very little time to look at the excerpts in their context. What I heard from the reading of the excerpt of Duke's interview is that at S21, the person who would organize the executions would give orders to that effect was Hor. So in the question that's put now to the witness, it changed. It becomes Hor would decide upon the executions. It's not what I heard in the excerpt that was read out. I do not have the excerpt in front of me to check right now, but it appears to me that the council changed the words used by Duke by saying that it was Hor who would decide upon the executions. That's not what I heard when this excerpt was read out. It's one thing to plan organizations once the executions, and then to give orders for the executions to take place, but it's something else to decide upon the executions. Those are two different things, and I don't think we can mix them up.
The only thing I can do is literally repeat what Duik said, and let me not interpret it then. Let me quote it again, Mr. Witness. At S21, the person who planned and gave the orders on this matter, the killing at S21, was Kim Wat alias Hor. And the implementer was chairman of my special unit, Him Hui. What is your reaction?
Regarding this document, Ho would receive the orders from Duke. He had no authority to remove anyone or anybody unless there was an order from Duke. And after receiving the order or orders from Duke, Ho would decide how to deal with those people with the company or 100-member unit.
Let me read to you another quote about the same subject, E3/452, Khmer 00146559, English 00147567, French 00147929. And I quote, "The tasks of detention and smashing had been the burden of Comrade Hor ever since the creation of S21." End of quote. Is that incorrect? Or is that correct?
That is correct. But as I said, Ho received the orders from Duke and he did whatever he was assigned to do by the upper echelon, to my knowledge.
In that same document, the next page, Duik says that in relation to the execution of prisoners, Hoare had to ask my opinion first. So not permission, but opinion. Is that incorrect?
To my knowledge, unless there was an order from Deutsche, Ho could do the job.
The question is about ordering or rather approving by Duik. Did Duik order executions or did he approve suggested executions?
Well, after there was a decision from Deutsche, then Ho could perform the specific task. Ho himself had no authority to decide to kill anybody or any prisoner. Everything was dependent on Duik in terms of interrogation and other tasks.
Well, the reason I'm asking this, Mr. Witness, is because very recently you were interviewed by the investigators of the International Co-Investigating Judge. That is E3/10571. Question and answer 7. So that's for all languages the same. And you're being shown a document, and then you say the following: I used to see Duik's handwriting often. Especially I saw his handwriting and his signature very often. When he approved smashing and provided it to Hoare. After that, Hoare gave this document in Duik's handwriting to me to prepare the names of people who had to be smashed. After that, company commanders Peng and Hui took that list. So, again, I'm coming back to that word, approved. Was it Duik approving Hoare's decision, or was it Duik ordering Hoare?
Duik gave an order through Hoare.
Were you ever in a room, or were you ever witness of Duik ordering Hoare?
I did not witness a direct order. However, there has to be a notation from Duik before Hoare could execute any prisoner.
Correct, but Duik said there was an incident once that a prisoner was executed who still had to be interrogated.
Reference, counsel, reference.
Could you have the courtesy to at least let me finish my sentence?
If if we want to follow and check the accuracy of the references, and we've had problems with that, we need the reference.
I'll move on. God almighty. Mr. Witness, let me move on to my next subject, and I will find you your quote, Judge Fentz. And that is about, my questions is about the tasks of S21. The general objectives of S21. Let me confront you with what Duik said on 2 occasions as to the tasks of S21. During his testimony in this case, 9 April 2012, at 15:35, he said that S21 was a unit to fulfill its espionage task. Is that correct? Was S21 tasked for countering espionage?
I did not know about that matter. My duty was to complete the list on time.
Another major task of S21 was, according to Duik, and that he said in E3/451, Khmer 001-87652, English 002-04341, and French 00186-171. He said the major task of S21, he actually agreed with that when it was being put to him by the investigating judge, was searching for traitors, finding poison, arms, and Vietnamese agents. This was the reason S21 was appointed, to search for those agents through the confessions. Is that something that you remember as well as being the major task of S21?
As I have said from the outset, the tasks mentioned by Dutch were several, but my main focus was on my personal assignments, and I did not pay attention to other tasks. I tried to complete my task properly and on time.
Let me see if I can do it differently. Last week you were shown a list of daily counting of prisoners, specifically on 24 October 1977. Maybe I can have that on the screen, Mr. President. That is E3/8763. The English ERN is 00182983 and 84. don't think that is the correct document. Let me try differently. You might recall, Mr. Witness, that you were shown a document by, I believe, Judge Levine, which spoke about all kinds of units from the army and zones that prisoners were detained from, were coming from. The list consisted of Division 164, Division 170, all the zones and autonomous regions were in there. And you might also recall that you explained the various abbreviations of the state ministries. Now my question first is, if you recall this list, do you remember whether these categories were all the categories there were, or were there other separating categories for prisoners?
Could you please specify the list that you mentioned? Are you referring to the daily counting of a prisoner list or another list?
Yeah, that's the list that was shown to you last week. Unfortunately, I don't get the Khmer on. E38763, maybe it's in the binder.
Duty Counsel, could you please check the binder and provide it to your client? Court officer, could you take the document from the defense counsel and give it to the witness?
I apologize for the delay, Mr. President. So that is the document that was shown to you with all those state ministries and all the various divisions of the army. You remember that document, Mr. Witness?
Yes, I see it.
Now my question is, do you remember any other categories of prisoners, or were these all the categories that were used within S21?
Nikki.
This is kind of a combined list for prisoners. However, this kind of list was not drawn up on a daily basis. It was only drawn up when there was an instruction to make such a report by whole. And the daily list was different from this kind of list, as the daily list was shorter in terms of information, that it only mentions the named and the position. And to me, this is a consolidated list or a combined list.
I understand, but my question is, was there a category of prisoners that is not mentioned on this list? Is there a remaining category that we maybe do not know of? Or are these divisions of the army, the members from the zones and the state ministries, are these all the categories there were?
This is a kind of a master list, and to my knowledge, there was no other kind of a master list.
Now keep that in mind, and let me now go to document E3 slash, or rather the WI of Duik E3 slash 5772, English ERN 002091170, Khmer 001869194, and French 001862110. He says that prisoners in S21 would only come from within the party and not from the popular masses. End of quote. Is that correct?
Ni.
To my knowledge, the matter generally happened, but I could not say about the statement made by Dutch.
Let me formulate it differently. Is it correct that the prisoners in S21 all belonged to one of those categories and only came from within the party and not from the civilian population?
The information release covered civilians as well. So, to my knowledge, that statement by Dutch is not correct.
But if there were civilians in S21, were they then not members of one of those categories that you just mentioned, or that we just discussed?
In terms of civilians, they will be listed as civilians and the zones they were sent from. For example, if they were sent from the northwest zone, that would be mentioned. If they were former Lunar soldiers, the information would also be included.
So what you're saying is that Duik's testimony that prisoners only came from within the party is incorrect?
Yes, that is correct.
Now let me go to one other person that you worked closely with, and that is Meng. Meng was the chairman of the interrogation office, correct?
No, Meng was not chief of the interrogation section, but he was chief of the interrogation office.
That's what I said in English. Maybe something went wrong in the translation. But what is the difference between chairman of the interrogation office and chairman of the interrogation section?
They were different. The chief of the office was in charge of drawing up the list for all the interrogation units. As for the chairman of the interrogation unit, that person was in charge of all the interrogators within the interrogation units.
When you talked to the American defense intelligence officers. You also mentioned Meng, that is document E3/7837, Khmer ERN 008-00613, French 0077-5890, and English 0027-6844. These American interrogators or officials summarized Meng's work as quote-unquote the interrogation registrar. Interrogation registrar, is that an adequate description of Meng's duties?
Meng was the person who was in charge of all the list for all the interrogations units. Meng was in charge of all the master list of prisoners, and the typists were also under Meng or under his office.
Was there any overlap between your work and his work, or were these really two completely different jobs or tasks?
My task and Meng's task were separate and different. First, I had to make a report to Meng on the number of prisoners, and Meng himself was were all in charge of those tasks in the three offices, and he was the one who was in the position of the master list.
During your interviews with the investigators, of the co-investigating judges, your interviews with the prosecution, here at trial in 2009, it happened quite often that you didn't recognize a certain S21 document or S21 list. Was that because that particular list was most of the times drawn up under the supervision of Meng, and that a lot of documents in from S21 you are simply not able to recognize because of your position?
I cannot recall all the list. I only knew about the list that were drawn by the GAD unit.
But to put it differently, Meng was responsible for all kinds of other documents than you were responsible for, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Just to get it completely clear, Mr. Witness, let me read something you said before the chamber in case 1, that is document E3/7466, at 9:40 in the morning, and that might have been an error in the transcript, because it says the following: I worked only under supervision of Peng with a P, who was the chief of the interrogators. I was the one who summarized the list. So you said you worked under the supervision of Peng, who was the chief of the interrogators. Did you mean Meng and not Peng?
Did you check the original Khmer transcript? Perhaps it's simply a...
That is a good question. No, I haven't. But maybe the witness can clarify. If you said you worked only under supervision of the chief of the interrogators, did you mean Peng or did you mean Meng?
Since there is a confusion here between Meng and Peng. Peng was not in charge of maintaining the list. He was different from the battalion level.
So you meant Meng and not Peng, correct?
For drawing up the list, I refer to Meng. As for Peng, Peng was in charge of the 100-man unit or a company, that is the 18th group.
Now, one of my last questions in relation to those lists in general. Mr. President, with your leave, I would like to show a small clip from the East German documentary, the Ankar. I believe the AV unit is ready to show that clip. If that is all right with you, yeah.
Counsel for Civil Parties, you may proceed.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have a short question for my colleague. Is this the extract mentioned in an email last week? Because if that is it, he did not specify the minutes. And if yes, to be concrete, the problem we have is that that document is only in German. It is a documentary that is not in any of the tribunal's official languages, and what we have is only partial translations of the comments in the documentary, and we are therefore unable to understand what is said in the extract that colleague has referred to. That poses a difficulty for us. I know there is a German-speaking judge here present, but we, for our part, in view of the fact that this documentary is in none of the languages of the tribunal, face difficulties in understanding it.
I'm not interested in a commentary that you can hear. For all that matters, we can switch off the sound. The only thing that I want to show is a book containing prisoner lists. And I want to ask him a question about what you see, not about what you hear.
A clear reference was asked.
Yes, the AV unit should know.
For the transcript. For the record.
Yes, it is documentary The Ankar E3/3095R at 23 minute 58 till 25 minute 15.
Your request is granted, and every unit personnel instructed to play the video clip requested by the defense counsel for Nuon Chea.
Mr. Witness, you saw the footage. This is a documentary that was shot in 1980 or 1981. Very quickly after S-21 was abandoned. And what you see on that footage is an orange book containing entry lists of prisoners. Is that something that was used, this orange book containing those entry lists? Did you work with a book?
I was in charge of that large book. Judge Avern, you have the floor.
I'm reacting because I'm hearing Counsel Koppe speaking about the list containing prisoner names. These names contain no names. These lists are daily lists of the number of prisoners, those coming in and those leaving. These are documents that were already presented, in fact, in this trial.
Maybe I misspoke. I certainly didn't mean to say names. Maybe it went wrong in the translation. Mr. Witness, this book containing entry lists or documents that you were responsible for, is my understanding now correct that you, in fact, used this orange book while you were at S-21?
I was in charge of the daily incoming prisoners.
I understand, but did you use this orange book for that purpose?
Perhaps we can show a still.
We have stills, but we originally planned to show stills, but the footage actually is more clear when you see book. Maybe we can show it again, but I think the witness was able to see it clearly. So again, Mr. Witness, did you use this orange book? Was that part of your daily work, using that orange book?
Counsel Koppe, I don't really understand the relevance of your question. This book contains the same sheets as those that were presented to this witness, and he said indeed that he was completely unaware of all of these sheets. the witness said that he would come up with nominal lists of prisoners coming in, lists of names. Here there are no names. These are simply statistical data with the number of prisoners coming in and leaving in each unit involved. So I don't see the relevance of your question here.
Maybe something is going wrong in the translation. The only thing I'm interested in, and that's what I heard, in English at least, is that he used this orange book. And the reason I'm asking is that we only have separate documents. We are not aware of the existence of a book. That's why I'm asking this question. There's no such thing as an orange book. At least that's what I know. So my question again, you saw an orange book. I leave for what it is, what's in it. But did you use this orange book?
I used a thick book. However, I do not recall the content inside the book. A thick one. And for the color, it was pink, not yellow.
Mr. President, what I'm trying to establish is whether there was a difference in what was the original state of those entry lists and how we have it now in the file. Having said that, would it be possible to show the witness this footage again?
President AV unit, please show the video clip as requested by the Defense Counsel. And please pause when the concerned document, that is the orange document, was shown.
So, Ms. Withers, you had another chance to have a look at this book. Was this the book that you used?
Generally speaking, this is the master list, or the book of the master list. And I registered names of incoming prisoner on a daily basis, and usually this book or master list was used when I had to total the number of prisoners. President Judge LaBench, Please proceed.
Now, for purposes of clarity, I'd like to specify that this is a register that compiles the daily lists of the S-21 prisoners. These daily lists resemble the lists under Index E3/8763, which was shown on Friday, and even this morning to the witness.
President, thank you, Judge. It is now convenient time for a short break. The chamber will take a short break from now until 3 p.m. Court officer, please assist the witness in the waiting room during a break time, and please invite him back together with the duty counsel into the courtroom